The sky above the river burned with the colors of farewell, streaks of violet and crimson bleeding into amber, as though the heavens themselves grieved for two souls who had found each other only to be torn apart. And along the water's edge, where the cottonwoods bent with age, their roots clutching the soil like hands, unwilling to release what they loved, the Apache warrior stood tall, his figure etched against the dying light, strong yet trembling within. For before him was the woman who had taught his heart a language older than words, a woman he could never truly claim, yet could never truly forget, her presence more radiant than the sunset itself, though her face glistened with tears that mirrored the river's shimmer. And in the quiet between them, the world seemed to fall away, no sound but the soft lap of water and the cry of distant birds returning to their nests. And he remembered the first time he had seen her, not here in sorrow, but in spring when the grass was tall and the air was filled with blossoms, when she had walked into the meadow with a basket in her hands, her hair unbound, catching the light like fire in motion. And though every law of his people forbade him to look twice, he had not been able to look away. For in her eyes he saw a spirit unafraid of the earth, a soul curious and kind, and he had felt a stirring, dangerous and unstoppable, that only grew when chance or fate brought them together again and again, until stolen moments by the river became their secret world, their sanctuary, where he taught her the songs of his ancestors, the stories written in stars, where she, in turn, taught him words of her people, laughter of her childhood, dreams that seemed so fragile against the vastness of the plains. And though they both knew that each meeting carved them deeper into danger, neither could deny the force that drew them. Until tonight, when that force met the wall of destiny and both stood bleeding from the collision, and his voice, usually steady as stone, broke when he whispered, "Can I hold you?" Not as a command, not as a question born of weakness, but as a prayer, as the last fragile request of a man who had fought wars and faced death without fear, yet trembled at the thought of letting her go. And she, trembling in her blue dress that clung to her form, as if even fabric knew her sorrow, pressed a hand to her chest, where her heart hammered like a trapped bird, her lips quivering, for she longed to cry. Yes, to leap into his arms and bury herself in the warmth of his chest, to stay there until the stars burned out and dawn never came. But she could not, for behind her lay her family, settlers hardened by survival, suspicious of those not like them, bound by prejudice and pain. And behind him lay his tribe, proud, watchful, wary of betrayal, his every step watched by elders and warriors who would see in her presence not love, but treachery. And so she hesitated, the silence between them heavier than the sky, until, at last, her breath broke free and she whispered, "If you hold me now, I don't know if I'll ever be able to let go." And her words tore at his chest, for they were the truth he carried too, and his hand, steady in battle, shook as he reached up, brushing away the tear that traced her cheek, his fingers lingering as though by touch he could memorize her, as though the warmth of her skin would brand itself into him forever. and she leaned into his palm, closing her eyes, the world narrowing to the press of his hand and the thrum of his presence, her body screaming for the embrace they denied themselves, her soul begging him to choose love over duty. But when she opened her eyes, she saw in his the fire of devotion chained by sacrifice, the impossible burden of a man who could not betray his people, yet could not bear to lose her. And she knew in that shattering instant that this would be the last time they stood together beneath the cottonwoods, the last time the river bore witness to their love, and her body trembled with the weight of it. But he steadied her with a voice low as thunder, whispering, "Beyond life itself, I will love you. Remember that, even when I am gone." And though the words were soft, they struck her like an oath, binding them not just for now, but for eternity. And she wanted to scream, to cry, to demand why the world could be so cruel. But instead, she clutched the fabric of her dress and bit her lip, her tears falling silently into the earth, absorbed by the soil that had borne witness to countless partings, countless forbidden loves. And above them, the first stars appeared, silver points pricking the veil of dusk, as if the heavens themselves wanted to illuminate this final moment. And he, torn between the desperate urge to hold her and the brutal truth that love sometimes meant letting go, let his hand linger just one heartbeat longer before he withdrew, though every part of him ached with the absence. And in that fragile space, where touch had ended, but love had not, they stood staring into each other's souls, two lives divided by fate, yet bound by something greater, something timeless, something that neither tribe nor family nor death itself could erase. And though his arms remained at his sides, though he forced his body to remain still, inside he held her already, forever, beyond the reach of the river, beyond the reach of the stars, beyond life itself.